I gotta disable my vocal fry. That's better. Yo. Sorry, we're running a little behind today. I was in the middle of designing a new thumbnail for the live streams and I lost track of time. But I've been discovering my passion for graphic design, you could say. I just gotta... Hold on. Give me 1 sec. I'll show you my screen in just a moment. And then I gotta post. I keep forgetting to post on the Discord. Sorry, I'm a little scatterbrained at the present. Okay, I've got a lot on my mind. Okay, I just want to turn on a text layer. I know, sorry, I still got the curtain shut, but believe me, when you see this picture I'm cooking right now, you're gonna... I gotta give you a warning, it's gonna blow your socks off, little buddy. Okay, it's gonna be incredible. You won't believe it. You won't believe your eyes. I just gotta save it. I'm not gonna be bothered to give it a file name, because I'm doing it super quick, so I'm saving it as Untitled2 JPEG. And then I'm gonna set it as the stream thumbnail, because I'm so proud of it. Alright, you guys wanna see it? Guys, are you ready, kids? I will show you. Hold on, I just gotta find... Zoom. Welcome. Check this out. Check this out. I was just working on this morning with some new renders, some new design, I don't know what you'd call it, a design system, a design language, and I thought, I was just trying to figure out how to set this as the thumbnail, because I want to, when I post this on Discord, I want the thumbnail to be this, so that people, they faint. So, 1 second. There's like a thing in here somewhere, I'm pretty sure, of like stream settings, edit. Oh, I found it. Okay. So I gotta change thumbnail to Untitled 2. I'm gonna give this a name later, but for the sake of time, this will do. Alright, so I've set it as the thumbnail. And we'll see if you guys can see it. I'll just post on the Discord real quick before I forget. And I gotta check my audio levels. Alright. So, there's Discord. So yes, the rumors are true. Graphic design is my passion. Oh wait, okay, is this posted? Alright, I think we're posted now. I think it's done. Check that, dude, okay, I'm so proud of this. So if you go to the Discord right now, hold on. Why is this not? Yeah. So if you go to the Discord right now, the thumbnail should be this should be this. So that'll be cool. But yeah, so I'll show you break this down a bit on what this is really for, because I literally, this wasn't even for a thumbnail, I just was making it to experiment. And there's been some things I've been figuring out on the design front, and some stuff I've been reading, and more devlog progress, so we'll get through all that, but I'll show you this first, because it's the most exciting. So I was working on like a poster type. I don't even really know what this is, but for a lot of my reference for this UI graphic design journey we've been on over the streams, one of my influences in my UI reference that I kept finding that isn't really interface stuff, but it's just graphic design stuff and pinups and renders that I thought were cool. So I got some of those in its own mood board here of pictures I'd found on Google and stuff, and just in my own library of just sick poses, cool renders with nice lighting and colors, and like there's some other stuff here that I got from UI. I'll talk about this game in a little bit. There's some old fighting game for the PS2 I found that had really sick anime graphics and Y2K styling on the interface, which I thought, wow, and from 2004 as well. So I thought, oh, that's cool. I'm glad that exists somewhere. But I found a lot of sort of reference like this, right? And it's like, well, why do I like this stuff? What is it about these pictures? Because these were all used for like desktop wallpapers or websites or promotional images for the brands that I grew up with as a kid. There's some interface stuff here too, but a lot of it, I don't even know what you would use these for. Like DVD, I guess this is a DVD cover, and this, I don't even know what this was from. And then these are like advertisements for phones, and it's like, why the hell do I like this stuff so much? This is sick to me. I love this. Why? And I thought a bit about it, and I thought, well, I want to create, what I should do, because a lot of my graphic design that I'm trying to do for the interface I'm using pictures like this for inspiration, for emotion, because there's something about the emotion of all of these that is just sick. Like, you look at sort of the way that this is composed, that freaking, just the edge is just, oh, it's just nice. And some of these are like album covers and stuff. I thought some of these were pretty cool. So, with no particular goal in mind of just, I'm not designing a CD cover or anything. I just thought, I want to design a picture, a graphic, that has the same emotion as these pictures, just with the assets that I have and just with shapes and colors. I just want to mess around for like an hour and just compose something just emotionally that feels the same as these. And this is sort of, this is what I got going. I got some other layers in here of different accents that I was trying out. I'll turn some of these on. Yeah. So I just had like a silhouette of Gabby at the moment just to sort of get the vibe and like the pose. And you can see this is where things like posing, the Junior Matoma's in his talk when he's talking about you must nail the character's overall impression. Sorry, that's a terrible impression of the Japanese accent. But you know, that's sort of what he says in the talk, where he's like, you gotta nail the impression first before detail. And that's sort of the stuff that I talk about in the video about her model, because this is what this is from, by the way. This wasn't some drawing that I did. This is an in model render using her new. It's super low res at the moment. I'm using a really low res canvas size because I don't need a big canvas for this. I just wanted something simple. But you can still see, you can kind of make out her facial features even though it's like 240p. And again, you know, it's that fidelity thing I keep talking about, right? So I thought I'd get a pose together that was a bit, you know, a new pose that I thought would be cool, that has like a more aggressive facial expression than some of the other ones I've got. Now there was, and I did some patterns. I did a bunch of stuff in my sketchbook too that I'll show you guys. But I just wanted to copy. I literally in the last 10 minutes just made a thumbnail version of it. But I wanted to copy these layers. I've got some contrast filters on to kind of make it pop. So I'll chuck those on real quick. Just overlaid on everything. And yeah. So the actual picture itself, by the way, is all grayscale, except for the render. And I just put a blue color overlay over all of it right now. So there's that. I'm just gonna get rid of these masks real quick because I don't need them. I don't need these. Just gonna clean this up. So yeah, Gabby got hit with the pixel reducer. Okay, don't worry though. It's gonna be fine. Okay, she still holds up at low res. Because what we can do, because this is a smart object in Photoshop, I'm just trying to rearrange the... Oh, yeah, okay, I want to put this color in a certain spot. That's right, yeah. Okay, so now that we've got her layer in color over the top, that's kind of what I want. And I'll get rid of... I don't need this background. Sorry, I'm just cleaning up my layers. Because I was literally just playing. Like, I didn't have some kind of plan. I wasn't like, oh, I'm going to compose the perfect thing. I've realized that as much as I try my best to design the best stuff I can think of, it's difficult. And I thought, you know, I'm going to just take everything I've read and just play around and just do that and see what happens. And this was the result. So... we'll quickly AI upscale. No, I'm not kidding. We're not going to AI upscale it. But we'll just do like preserve and we'll just up this to I don't know, 900. That's a bit better now, so you guys can see it. I'll show you the pose. I'll show you the Blender file for how this was posed. Because I guess we'll... As I've been doing more work on the devlog, because again, I keep forgetting that, because it's not finished yet, you guys haven't seen all of the... You guys don't know about like 80% of the work that went into this model. So I've been continuing to rewrite the last bit of the script for that, by the way, and I've been editing... The edit is coming together a lot more now, but I will quickly, because that's still going to take a bit, because there's a lot of B-roll to edit. But in the meantime, I can show you just in the model file how I made this pose, because I was just so proud of it. So I have an animation clip here called Gabby Render in the action editor called Gabby Render, and I might have shown this before once, but it's got a bunch of like keyframes and stuff. There's meant to be a menu. Oh, here we go. So I've got like, it's literally just every keyframe has a different pose. It's an animation, just like her other animations. So if we go to the action editor and pick like Rebound 4 or something, all of her other animations are here. But there is one called Gabby Render. And it's literally just each keyframe has a different pose, and it isn't just her. Also, yeah, you can see some of the perspective hacks. But also the camera and the light source are also animated so that every frame, if you play the animation, it just goes through a bunch of stuff. But I just take each individual frame and screenshot it out pretty much. That's how I've been doing the renders for Gabby for the last year. So there was this one which I used for, I was going to use this for like the website header, but I think I'm going to pick something a bit cooler now. I tried doing this yesterday of like a really foreshortened one of her running, but I got kind of bored with it. And this is the one I've just shown you. So you can see how in each one, the camera and light source are all moving. And she looks pretty weird from any other camera angle that isn't the one that it's designed for. So I perfectly frame it so that it's like just inside the bounds of the camera. It looks good from that angle, but it's kind of weird when you look around at it. But you know. So and then yeah, the light source also does animate so that each pose has the right light vector. That's just so I've got like some funny ones here. This was for, I think, the last big devlog. It used this as the thumbnail. And then I've got like the official... These are the poses I'm using on the current render on the Steam store. So you can see I've like done little adjustments and changes to it over time as well. Like I did a few little variants where like I adjust her body posture just ever so slightly to look a bit better. So that's so the render you see on most of the thumbnails, that's actually from here as well. But the one I just did yesterday, I was really proud of. Mainly because the facial expression and the mouth in particular, I was really proud of. Like I had to like move and angle the mouth shape and the teeth just so that you get this sort of cool, you see the little fang in it just above the tongue, and then you see the bottom row of teeth. Because that's another thing as well that a lot of these will do, right? If you look at my reference, a lot of these sort of renders, and I'm kind of using Bakugan's facial expressions as reference. You can see that the mouth shape here is sort of similar, where it's got the bottom row of teeth. But I thought I'd do my own little spin and add that little fang to it, because Gabby's got fangs like that, because it's cool. But yeah, so that's the sort of thing you'll notice with a lot of the character renders I like, is that they all sort of have these serious facial expressions like that. So I thought, yeah, we'll give, because her model can do that. So I'm like, all right, well, we'll do that. So yeah. But if you look around at it, in the cool wireframe view, it looks a lot funnier when you actually look at the, hold on. Turn on wireframe. You can see it looks like nightmare fuel. when you look at it just as a mesh, it looks so strange. But with the right shader on it and from the right camera angle, it looks perfect. So yeah, so that's sort of how you get make a render, and you basically have to like, this is actually the most fun part of working with Gabby. It's not building her, because that was a pain. You know, it's like a pregnancy almost. You know, it's very, very intense. But it's when it's finished afterwards, and you can dress them up and pose them. That's the cool part. So I can show you all the different facial, like there's so many little bones in the face that are hidden that I keep hidden by default because it's just so many. But I spent like, you know, a good 20 minutes or so like meticulously moving each part of the mouth to get just the right shape. Because, you know, it is kind of interesting how by changing the corners, especially the shape of the corners, it kind of changes the facial expression a lot. So if you take this corner and kind of move it around, like here, especially this side, you can see how the facial expression now looks quite different. And then it's the same with the jaw. There's a jawbone here too, because you can open and close the jaw like that. So, you know, there's a lot of little tweaks and little bones that I had to set up ages ago. That was such a pain because I had to rig all that. I had to place every single bone that you see there. I had to do. You might remember me doing it on the modeling streams. But this is the payoff now, where it's like, now you can create this without having to draw it. You know, you can just, you know what? Actually, I can do stuff like this where it's like, you know, actually, I want the eyes to look a little different. And you can just like do that in like 10 minutes. Like, oh, maybe I want her looking a different way or something. So you could, you know, it's really, really rewarding to be able to just have freedom to do that stuff. So for getting the appeal of the game across to people, if you got renders as powerful as this, it goes a long way, I think. And I think maybe that's what I'm seeing in my references I'm looking at is, you know, a lot of these kind of exist to promote a anime series or a game or a cell phone or what have you. And if they didn't have the picture, I probably wouldn't care about, you know, like stuff like this. This is so cool. But if they just had a blank background, I probably wouldn't care. Or, you know, if instead of we're going to have a cool render of the character to promote our show, we're just going to have the logo in the middle. It's like, no, it's not appealing. But you do something like this, you arrange a nice painting, a matte painting or something with some renders, then I don't know, it injects so much personality to it. So there's like, you know, there's like in-game stuff for the model, and then there's also promotional stuff. Because I know I want to try to lean into what I liked about these renders and use those in my strategy to help people see more of the game. So yeah, so I don't know, maybe when this website's done, because I want to have the design match this whole vibe, and then once that's there, maybe I can have my own little section for desktop, download the Feline desktop wallpapers or something, kind of like these old games used to do, and we could have stuff like this for your phone or something. Like this actually, because my phone screen is around this dimensions for my flip phone, this would make a sick wallpaper for my flip phone, not gonna lie. So, you know, little stuff like that, right, that, you know, I guess like AAAs don't care about anymore, but I always thought it was cool when you see, especially like the Sonic Riders wallpapers that they had on the Sonic Riders site. Those were so cool. And it's like, I don't know why nobody does those now, but I think they should, because it was awesome. So you can do stuff like that when you have models and some design ability, which, you know, comes in handy. Anyway, sorry, I've rambled long enough about graphic design and all that, but, you know, that's sort of the stuff you kind of playing around with. Coaster says the Bakugan not being perfectly circular is killing me. yeah. But I don't know. It was I didn't quite notice. I thought they looked cool. You own a flip phone? Asks Rice away. Yes, for the last like 6 months, I've ditched my smartphone and I did a bunch of stuff. My whole lifestyle has completely changed in the last 6 months, and I mean, it's giving me better work results. So I guess that, you know, I wasn't able to design stuff like this 6 months ago. So I guess it's helping. But yeah, it's flip phones are awesome. I don't know why we ever Technology didn't need to progress past 2005. I'm gonna say it. It was perfect. You know, we still had YouTube, but it wasn't, you know, it wasn't trash. We still had the 5-star rating system. You could still customize your channel page, and you know, I guess Facebook and Twitter didn't exist yet, so you know, life was good. We didn't need to go past that, but we did. But if you can, with intention, you can go back. So that's sort of my ethos now, is to make the most authentically 2005 experience possible. Because life really was pretty good. It was also before the GFC, so there's that. How long does it take to design a good pose? I think yesterday, well, because I was working on this yesterday, right? And I spent a little too long on it. I was a bit carried away. I started working on it at like, maybe it was like after. It was like in the evening. It was about 7 p.m. But I got so into it that I like stopped working on it at 2 a.m. But I've noticed a thing where if I work in the evenings, I tend to work a lot slower and get, I kind of drift a little. So I really should not have done that in the evening, but you know, you learn, right? So if I had done it in the morning, it probably would have taken me maybe an hour or two, because you gotta decide what pose you want, and then it's all this meticulously changing, because then there's all the tweak bones. So the way I do it, I guess we'll do a quick run through. This is sort of relevant to the devlog as well about the model. Because the thing you sort of start, because that's why I've got all these panels here, right? That turn off and turn on different parts of the rig. So I'll do it in like wireframe. Actually, I won't have wireframe on usually. I'll usually do it, the way I like to work on it is I get like a light contrasting material, so I can still kind of see what the volume of the object is, and it contrasts against the background. It's partly also why I'm using light mode, but you guys might have noticed since last week, I've all my interface is bright, and I know for you internet dwellers it might be a sore sight, but I look, hear me out, okay? People in 2005, they didn't have dark mode, okay? And look at the output. You know, we had Halo 2, Halo 3. They're all made using an interface with these colors, with gray, not with black, okay? So maybe, I don't know, maybe they're onto something like that. But, so I thought, that's screw it. I'm going to go back to light mode. I used to always be a light mode user when I was a kid. And I used to do great stuff when I was a kid. And then, you know, then the dark times came. And everyone switched to dark mode. But I'm like, you know what? I'm going back to light mode. I'm doing it. So anyway, so if this is offensive to you, if you're looking at my Blender skin and you're going, ew, this, like, okay, look, okay, you can enjoy your dark mode if you want, but I'm gonna stay on the light side of the force for this one. But so you know, I'll have the render like this, and then I just pose the limbs first, and I get the hips posed the way I want. I usually start with the legs to get them spread out enough or whatever, or close together, or whatever arrangement. I'll like move the legs around the way I want. Then I'll usually do the arms, which I usually like to do with FK mode, like this, so that instead of moving the hands, you're just moving the arms a bit at a time. So we'll do like a quick live demo of this, because that's the cool thing, is that you can just change the poses just in real time, which is, you know, can't do that with the drawing. So let's say I wanted to have her hand sticking out, all cool like, right? Let's say we wanted to do that. We could. So I'll go to the camera, because then I'll set up the camera as well to be at the right angle I want. I still don't know if I'm doing the camera part right, because I know that there's a bunch of other tricks that Arc System Works do for their camera, which I am not privy to. So I just try to do the best I can, and then if I want some kind of exaggerated perspective, I either add focal length to the camera, or I just scale up my own limbs straight up. So, like, I'll scale up the hand or the arm like this or something. Because you know, I know that the 3D people might go, oh, the human body doesn't, and you just shut up. Okay, it's anime. You can do what you want. If you want to scale the hand up to be ridiculous, it's anime. You're allowed to. Okay, you don't have to do this realistic, you know, 10 times the detail. Everything's physically simulated nonsense. Okay, you don't need to do that. So yeah, so I don't know, I might have the hand. I'm just vibing it. Okay, I'm just feeling it out, still trying to keep an eye on like the contrast and the silhouette of like the contrast that this makes. Now the shoulder, you can see that if I wanted to have the arm out like this, you see the shoulder looks a bit awkward, and that's where we bring in the hidden, you got the hidden bones, right? Whichever, I'll find them. There we go. So then I've got the hidden tweak bones, which were also a nightmare to set up, but yeah, so you can tweak these around to kind of correct the volume of the body when deforming. Because you notice how before the shoulder looks squashed, which is not so good. So you bring the tweak bones in to kind of just pose it just so that it doesn't piss you off. That's the general ethos. It's like, what doesn't annoy you? So yeah, you can see we've just modified the pose real quick there, and I'll turn back the outline on so it looks cooler. And one thing I'll do as well, I'll like go to the flat shading mode and just look at the silhouette. So you can kind of see I'm not really too, like the hand is sort of overlapping into the body. It's not quite clear fully. But, you know, having a character design that does have a distinctive silhouette helps. So one thing that'll always work is, you know, Gabby's ear and haircut lend themselves well for a silhouette like this, because it just, I don't know, I like these little corners on the sides of her head that the hair makes, and then the ear. But they aren't posed like that normally. So after you get sort of the limbs and all that stuff going, you then got to start going in and like turning the hair on and posing each strand of, so that's why it can take an hour or two, because then you got to, it's like, all right, well, I want for the silhouette to work, okay, I got to pose each strand of hair so that it looks cool from this angle, right? You don't have to worry about how it looks on the others. It doesn't really matter. For a render, it doesn't matter. What was that noise? Is that a donation? Oh, Real FD, thanks so much for resubscribing. 24 months, dude. Thank you so much, dude. I appreciate that. You really are. I say this every time, but you really are a real one, Real FD. The realist, if I do say. Thank you so much. But yeah, so this is how the hair looks by default when I reset the bones. So what I had to do, it maybe takes like 20 or 30 minutes to like take each strand and rotate it and like just have it, or just, you know, because you try out different things. You might try this hair like rotated another way or whatever. But then, you know, you sort of move them around a bit, because then there's all these other strands at the back. I know, it's super complicated. There's so many bones. But, you know, it gives you so much control, which is nice. And then, you know, you've got the front strands in here somewhere too. Yeah. And then there's like the face and the eyes, which have their own layers too. So, you know, you can like, the eyelids really do a lot of heavy lifting. You can make her look real sleepy just by moving the eyelids slightly, or like super awake, you know, just from that little difference. So if I turn off all the bones and just turn that, because she looks kind of, you know, annoyed or just tired. But then you move them back and she's like locked in. She's intense. So yeah, and then there's just a bunch of stuff like that pretty much, and you sort of mess around and play with it. Then you get something you're happy with, and then you hit the good old F12 key. Now I've got it rendering at super low res. What I've done at the moment, because I was doing a lot of research on film stock recently, don't ask why, and I decided, because in Blender, you're supposed to be able to set the size of the camera, and the default is 1920 by 1080. But I don't know why it's 1920 by 1080, it just is. And I went, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make it so that it's like film stock, 35mm size, like film, which is like a 3:2 aspect ratio. So what I've done is I got the millimeter at 300 DPI in Photoshop of what an actual size for 3.5 millimeter is, and that's what it gives you in the pixel values. Now it's really low res, but I actually think it's good that I do it this way, because then if I do a preview of it, and if at this low res it like annoys me, then I know it's like bad, and it's like, okay, if it doesn't look good at the because the actual size is, I don't know, it's probably like, this is physically larger than 3.5 millimeter on my screen here, but in terms of pixel resolution and stuff, that's sort of like how, you know, you can kind of, you don't want to look at it full screen is the main point. You want to look at a small thumbnail. And if it looks good, it's like, all right, well, then I can just up the resolution scale to like 500 or whatever, and then render it again at high res, and then save that. And then the rest of the process, if I was to actually do this proper, I would then take this into Clip Studio and draw vector like lines over it and touch it up a bit, because there's, you know, because it's going to be imperfect because it's a 3D mesh, so you're going to have little shading glitches like on the elbows and stuff. And this, you know, Arc System Works do this as well. So on their character select screen for their menus for Guilty Gear Xrd, you know how they got the character select screen, they got the 2D character sprites. Those are not character sprites per se. They are screenshots like this, but they have taken them into like Clip Studio or something and just touched them up so that you don't notice it's a model. And if I was to have this on like a t-shirt or a sticker or something, that's what I would then do. But I haven't reached that stage with this render yet, so I'm just using the low res, and I render it without any filtering as well, by the way, so that's why it looks super pixelated. There's no anti-aliasing, because I find that doing it in Clip Studio, if you're painting over it or whatever, I think anime studios actually do this as well, because they also use an old version of Clip Studio, most of them. And they actually will animate all of it without filtering on, because it actually makes it harder to add fill. Because you see how like if you zoom into the pixel level, like with their finger or something, right? You got, like here it's perfect, right? There's solids. But if you were to add filtering, like if I go to the thingamabob, the options, you know the ones. If I go to film, and if I add filter to 1. This is going to FXAA the hell out of this. You do that, and then you zoom in. It looks smoother now, right, when you look at it. But if you look really close at it, you look at the fingers again, you notice how there's a bunch of transparent pixels now. And if you're in an anime studio and you're doing the paint bucket tool, filling everything, because that's what you want to do because it's fast. But if you've got all these yuck transparent pixels, all of a sudden, it's now 10 times harder to use the fill tool, and it sucks. And this is what I used to anguish over in Photoshop for like 10 years before I figured this out. But if you just turn off the filtering and add it later, after this is so brilliant. I mean, if any of you work in an animation studio, you probably know this already, but this just blew my mind. But if you turn off the filtering and make it pixel art, pretty much, the paint bucket tool or the magic wand tool works perfectly on this. So if I wanted to recolor the skin to be like really bright or something, or add bloom, or if I wanted to recolor her shirt as green, literally there's no in-betweens, there's no interpolation, no filtering. It's all exact, clear separation, clear borders, and is way easier for the paint bucket tool. And then all you got to do is, if it still looks pixelated afterwards, just add the filtering after. Like, once you're finished, go to Clip Studio and just add 1 pixel of blur, and then you've got your filtering back without having to go through hell when you're working on it. So that's why when I do my renders from Blender, I keep it all turned off. There's no effects or anything. It's just the model only, with a transparent background, of course. And yeah, especially for things like the armor, it's like super handy. So yeah, but I haven't gotten that far on this render yet. I'm not sure if I will, because again, I only want to do that whole process for the ones I'm absolutely sure I'm going to use. But you know, but this might be a contender. There are bits of this I do like. So if we go back then to Photoshop, I mean, if you start messing around in Photoshop, it's going to add filtering to it anyway. Well, maybe not. Maybe I did turn it off here too, actually. But, you know, if I did a finalized version of this, I would probably, firstly, redraw some of these in Illustrator first, then scale it up, then add filtering after, and then save it. That's what I would do. Anyway. Riceawake says, God, I hate those mid-pixel transitions. Yeah, so I think usually it's a result of, like, how do you pronounce it? bilinear filter. I'm probably butchering that. But you see how you kind of have these settings here, right? So when I scaled this image up 20 minutes ago from its original size, I changed it to nearest neighbor, which doesn't, it keeps it sharp. If I undo this and make it, this was the size I was working at. Also, you can see that the text has this filtering on it because the text does its own thing. So there's actually settings for the text too. If you go in here and change it to none, now it's going to be pixel art here too. So I might keep that on just so it's consistent. But if you want to like, when you default, when you scale it up normally, it'll do automatic. So let's say you do that, right? And then I think, because this is already a, hold on, because this is a smart object, this render. But if you look at the background, actually, I don't know, maybe I've done it too perfectly for this to be a problem. Maybe, no, was I too forward thinking? Hold on, if I rasterize this, and it will scale it up even more to like 1200 or something. Yeah, now you can see the filtering is just butcher. It just completely ruins it. So there's that. But if you do the same move, do 1200, but you make it nearest neighbor, it keeps it pixelated. But ultimately, because I've rasterized it, it's gonna ruin it. But if I unrasterize it and I keep it back to a smart object and then do that again, nearest neighbor, it scales up a lot better this time. See the details a lot better preserved. But yeah, but ultimately what I would do for the final version would be to have a properly rendered Clip Studio touch-up where it's exported at much higher res. Like, I don't know exactly how high, but high enough that you wouldn't notice, that you could make this like A4 or A2 size and you wouldn't notice. But that's huge, and I wouldn't do that for just a mock-up like this. But yeah, I know it seems kind of insignificant, but all those little filtering, all this little stuff, like all this matters with all this, because you know, like when you don't really get the filtering and it doesn't do it the way you intend, it creates unintentional artifacts, and that kind of ruins the impression of it all. And that all those ideas applied to Gabby's model, but I think they applied to just graphics in general. This applied to when I was doing the model. You know, if you add filtering to the animations or in-betweening, you don't get an intentional result, and that's the X factor. So if you want a Photoshop image with the X factor, you just gotta turn off filtering. But use it intentionally. That's the main thing. Don't just do it on default. Don't not use it, but use it intentionally. So at the moment, I'm just keeping it off so that I can use it when I want. Dat Sammy says the style, even without touching it up, looks cool. Thank you. Well, thank you. That's a huge compliment. It's good to know. I mean, that means that there's less work for touching up later, which is good. You know, you don't want to anguish too much over refining it. So, yeah. So you want to get it like 90%, 80 or 90% there, and then you do the extra 10 or 20%. You don't want to do the opposite, where it's like, it's 20% of the way there, and then you got to do 80% of the effort is touching it up. That's when it's out of whack. You don't want that. But yeah, what I want, now it's time for, it's interaction time. We're going to interactive activity here for chat. I know this is your favorite. Now my little lecture's over. I have a game, I have an activity for you. I need you guys to pitch in here, because, and this is going to be a very subjective question, but I want you in chat right now looking at this render. I hope you guys can see it, right? I didn't just do this whole thing with my desktop hidden. Okay, thank goodness. I want you to tell me, when you look at this picture, what it makes you feel. That's it. I just want you to tell me that. And I'm curious to see. That's all I need to know. I want to know, when you look at this picture, when you look at the colors, the shapes, the pose of it, the font choice, how does it make you feel? What words? It doesn't even have to be rational. It could be some random word. It could be Gatorade or whatever. Just whatever comes to mind. Type it in chat right now. I'll be watching closely. Probably Rose says it looks neat. Thank you. Bilinear. Oh, that's how you pronounce it? Okay, good to know. No Make Wen says, I'm not sure about feel, but it very much reminds me of early PlayStation. Cool. Rice Awake says, water ad? Awesome. Active Excited says Nebulosity. Looks like a 2013 Cartoon Network. Unbalanced, but I like it in theory. Okay, good to know. Hype. Magazine. Snow, but like in summer. Much more professional. Oh, thank you, probably. Really, very interesting adjectives here, guys. Some of those I wanted. Some of them are pretty good feedback, though. So when you say, who was it that said it looks unbalanced? Gus, my man. Okay, I'm gonna need your help here. Because I'm just messing around, okay? What about it sticks out to you as unbalanced? I'm gonna zoom out so that it's easier to judge. What is it about it that makes it look unbalanced? I think I might have an idea. I'll just think it for a minute myself, but I'm curious what to you, because that means that there's something that is pissing you off about this picture, right? When you look at it and you go, something's off. What is it that sticks out? Oh, these are some good adjectives. Stablo says it feels refreshing, like a sip of cold water at 3 a.m. Oh, that's awesome. That's so cool. The foot is off the page? Okay, yeah, fair enough. I didn't think that would matter, but if it's noticeable, then it's a problem. Leg posing is off. Okay, good to know. Too much empty space. Ooh, that's an interesting one. All right, well, we'll try and recrop and reposition the render a little, and if that's not gonna work, we'll repose her a little in Blender, and then I will. Well, yeah, we'll tweak it a little, and then I'll tell you a bit about some of what I've been reading that's helped me to get these feelings that you guys are talking about having it feel like a water ad or a sip of water at 3 a.m. or summer in snow, but in summer. Because these are really, dude, these are such interesting feelings. Thanks for sharing them. They're so interesting, and I'll tell you a little about why those might be there without you realizing. But one thing at a time. So, where's Gabby? There she is. Oh, this is meant to be in this layer. My bad. Oops. And I want that on top of this. Okay. So, we'll put some guides. I'm gonna turn off the text as well for the minute. I don't know, it could be, maybe it's the background that's throwing people off. I don't know, actually, what do you guys think of that? If I turn off the accent on one side. What do you guys make of that? Does that help with the balance? Cybershell says has a flowery yet futuristic design in the back. So I can see why Coesta said summer. I sense that too, but I also sense separation between Gabby and the background. Very interesting. That's better? Okay, cool. So maybe this accent was throwing it all off. I don't know, maybe that... I don't know. We'll crop and move Gabby a bit so that her foot is still in the... Actually, yeah, I do like this better. It is objectively, I like this. I just need to draw some guides, and I'm gonna turn this back to grayscale for a second, so I can, because this blue is so bright that I can't quite see my grid lines. So I'll change this back to the black and white overlay that I was doing. Like that. There we go. Because it should look good as black and white as well, and I'll go through why in just a minute. I just want to get. Now, this is not going to snap well because this picture, by the way, is also 3:2, which is the same aspect ratio as 3.5mm film. Now I guess I could explain that while I'm doing this, because you guys might have heard me mention 3.5mm film a few times this stream so far. Why is Ray obsessing over film? Well, I got down some weird rabbit hole on... it was the Harry Potter films. I was like... I don't know, there was something about the Harry Potter films, specifically the third one, that was intriguing me. So I was doing a bunch of research on it. And I noticed something interesting about the early Harry Potter films, and that's the full screen, because those were released on VHS and DVD, so they were in this weird period of time where film was released analog and digital. And they had this thing where the full screen versions look different from the widescreen versions in the sense that the full screen versions have more on the frame that are cropped off from each other. Like each version reveals different parts of the frame. So it doesn't just do the cropping to the 4:3 where it's chopping the sides off. The actual full screen release of like the Philosopher's Stone or something actually has more on the top and bottom than the widescreen theatrical version. And that's because it's filmed... I don't know if this is still done, but those movies were filmed using a format called open matte, which means that more on the edges is filmed, and then afterwards it's then cropped to the theatrical and the home video version, instead of just filming it at widescreen by default. And I thought, what a great idea. I'm gonna do a similar thing with my stuff, and just work at whatever the film stock size is for films that they do to work with. Because when you're doing a movie, if I flip this way, if you're doing open matte on 3.5mm, which is the standard film stock size, this is the canvas dimensions you have, and it's a 3:2 aspect ratio, which is nice because it's not 16:9, which is just a compromise. It's not 4:3 either. It's like a 3:2. I don't know, there's just something nice about it. I don't know exactly why, but that's what movies work with. They then crop this to the anamorphic what is it? I don't know, the 2.3:1 or whatever. They will then crop this, like that for a movie. And then for a 4:3, you can get that as well. So I think that's why I like it, because you can turn it into 4:3 or into 16:9 or into anamorphic if you sort of crop out the right bits. So I don't know. That's what they do in movies, and I thought, I don't know, that's something cool about it. Anyway, how we think, because I'm trying to line Gabby up here to the thirds, so that compositionally, she's not, I don't know, how does, because I guess her hand is like right on this third here, which, and then the foot is like right in this bound. What do we think of that? Try putting her name on its side. Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. We'll give that a shot. What I might try as well is I'll just make a copy of it. So all this particular image doesn't have a purpose particularly, in terms of I don't have a plan for this exact picture, but I'm just trying to teach myself how to make an image, like an abstract wallpaper, look good. And feel something. You look at it and you feel an emotion. So that's why what you guys have said about how it makes you feel is super important at this stage. Because I'm thinking less about graphic design rules, which is probably why it looks so out of whack in the first place. And I'm trying to think more about emotion. So I don't know how... just trying to think. Now, this is where I'm now trying to put in a grid system into use. But yeah, diagonal vertical text is a bit tricky to align, I'll say. Maybe something like this, I don't know. Or, another idea, because I want to try and keep it even if possible. So, I guess while we do this, because I was struggling a bit last week. I was reading a lot, I was trying to put a lot into practice, but I think I got to the point where I was trying too hard. And it's like, okay, I feel like if I want it to look beautiful, I shouldn't have to do this many revisions. It shouldn't be this difficult. Usually the right stuff comes to you very, very easily. And I knew something was off. So I took a moment to stop, trying to do the menu concept, the website one. I stopped working on both of those just to reflect on like the right approach. And I read more about the Designers Republic. I was telling you guys about that last week. And I found some really interesting stuff that I will share in just a moment. What do you guys think of this? Try scaling her up? Hold on, I just scaled her down. We'll try it though. We'll try it. How do you mean? Like this? Because I kind of want her full body in this, because it has this cool 3D jumping out at you look that I think looks cool. I think we could crop it later for stuff, but I just want to get it with her fully in there to look cool. I think maybe the text is too big. That is throwing me off. So I'm going to change this to 12 points. And we're going to move this maybe down here or something. I don't know. I don't even know why this has to be there, really. I just wanted to have some bit of text. Actually, maybe we could... Okay, I've got a smile just thinking about this idea. Maybe we should try it. Because, you know, I have the magazine here. I don't know if I can find a picture of it so I can show you guys. Because we were looking at Designers Republic stuff, right? And they do a bunch of stuff with text that, like this sort of stuff. Now, this is a little too busy for what I want, but they have a bunch of random Japanese text here that probably says something deep or whatever. But they do this thing where they like chuck in text and stuff, especially on this stuff like this. And for them, it's like this sort of... I know sort of the ethos behind why they do it. But I had this idea. I was like making coffee the other day, and I had this idea of what if I tried a similar thing, but not with the tone of their one. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna just, because I've been a little afraid to try it, because it feels a bit like, am I allowed to do that? Is that allowed? But I'm gonna do it. I'm just gonna see what happens. Like putting like phrases and things that kind of fit the vibe, just in text, in type, and laying it out and seeing how it feels and how it looks. And going completely not thinking about how perfect it is, and just thinking about the emotion only. Alex, I'll go a bit more into that in just a second, because there's a lot I've been coming to realize about this process as I've been reading. But I want to show you a notepad file I made that will explain this a lot better. Just one second. So, what did I call? I put it in my interface folder. Because as I've been learning, there's lots of rules when it comes to graphic design. You know, you gotta know what you're doing to a degree. You gotta know what not to do. You gotta know margins and negative space, contrast, all this stuff. But I think it got to the point where I was like focusing so much on it that I was so ingrained with the procedure and rules that I was sort of losing the bigger picture. And this has happened to me before. And this is part of the devlog I've been working on at the moment. This has sort of been most of my week on the big Gabby model devlog. There's a chapter I've been rewriting about Gabby's facial topology. And like, I know this sounds crazy, but there is literally an entire chapter dedicated to just the facial topology because it was so complicated. And that had a similar principle to it where with Arc System Works, to get facial expressions like this in 3D that look 2D, there's this idea that you have to like have it all like topologized very meticulously and intentionally to get this sort of result. But when I did Gabby's face the first time, it sucked. It looked... I found a picture of it as well, because this devlog's still going to take a little bit, so I'll show you guys a work in progress picture of what that face looked like. Some of you might even have seen it before. And this is relevant to graphic design as well. Just give me a sec. I'm just going to dig for it. And it's a way of working and thinking. It's like, I don't know. This is something that's important to anything. This is a principle for all things. So if we go and look at the work in progress screenshots, you'll notice in these sorts of pictures that her face looks different. Hold on, there actually is a before and after picture. Because I had to do her face twice. Because of how wrong I got this. It might not be that one. It might be this. Oh, here we go, yeah. This is sort of it. You can see it like sort of a before and after. This isn't even the final one. This is just me changing her face. But I actually went and remodeled it. Like, here it is. So, because this was so hard, because you have to topologize it a certain way to get the shadows to be clean like that and everything. Now, all of that, I'm saving that for the video because it's a bit complicated. But the moral of the story was, the thing I took away from that was that you have to know the rules and then you have to like throw them out after. But you can't just go in blind. You have to like know them first and then decide after you know them to not care. I don't know, it's different than not caring to learn them in the first place. It's very different from that. That's sort of what Gabby's first model was like. But this one, in this version, you can kind of see the stress in her eyes. You kind of feel the emotion I was feeling modeling this one, where it's trying so hard, too hard, almost. And I got all the rules right. You got the nice clean shadows. I had this all topologized like perfectly, but the character is wrong. Like, this is not how she's supposed to look. She looks kind of too chubby almost, and the eyes are just wrong. And then when I did it again without thinking about the rules, and then this was the outcome instead. And I was a lot happy with the second one. And I've sort of repeated the same problem here with the graphic design too, where last week and the week before that and the before that, trying to redesign the menus and the website and everything, I've been learning the rules, and then I've also been having to learn to then let them dissolve into my subconscious and let them drive subconsciously instead. But it's not the same as not putting them in the subconscious in the first place and just going off pure instinct. You gotta train your instinct, but you gotta do it on instinct. It means you can't over rationalize it. That's the main moral of that story. So, in that vein, instead of trying to read more about the grids and all that stuff, because I think I know that stuff now, and it's like, well, what, if you try to think too much about how aligned everything is, you kind of lose sight of the big picture, as I did with Gabby, and the emotion was all wrong. So what I did instead, this new approach I've been trying with this picture, is feelings, emotion, not just the technicals. I've been sort of putting that to the side and just thinking about, because you can spend ages deliberating on what's the perfect layout, but I think there's a degree to which there has to be a goal, an objective, and that goal is not going to be to create the perfect layout. It's going to be to evoke a feeling, which is not a thing you can't quantify that with the pursuit of perfection necessarily. It's a more of a subjective thing in this sense. But reaching that goal is an objective thing, but the goal itself is sort of a subjective factor. I don't know, I'm still working out exactly what the mix there is. So what I've done is I've written down the feelings that I want to put in here. And what's so interesting, what you guys have been saying in chat, is you guys were saying that you felt similar things to what I've written here. Now, I wrote this a week ago, mind you, and you guys are here a week later. Before seeing this list, you guys said you felt a lot of the same thing. Some of you said it felt like a water commercial, or it felt like... What else did you guys say? 2003 Cartoon Network, active. I'm just reading what you guys wrote. Snow, but in summer. Like, this is awesome, because that tells me that I have succeeded in achieving an emotional goal, which is good. So I wrote a bunch of stuff here, if you guys are curious. It's more than just feeling. There's also things about ethic and character, material stuff. These are the other stuff I'm still working out that'll come into play later. But there's like the emotional sensory feelings, and then there's like an ethic of like, there's a way you go about that stuff. So that's why I've picked a lot of these triangular shapes, these rounded corners and stuff. But real quick, I'll just see what you guys wrote about the text because I know it's probably bothering you watching me leave this bit of text here. Or make the text really big and put it behind it. Yeah, we'll try. I want to try that out, and then I want to try putting in some phrases based on some of these ethics as well. Just like the way the Design Republic would do, but my version. Where instead of using words like trademark or their little witty, sarcastic phrases, we're going to maybe come up with phrases using these ethics and just put them around and see how it looks. But we'll try one of these big titles. You guys seem to love your big titles. We'll make this huge, just to see how it, how it looks. What I might do, I'll just take this on its own layer, and I'll make it uppercase. Excuse me. And we'll just sort of scale it. Because you guys notice something else? I don't know if you guys have picked up on this, but you notice how the font choice, this is I've used for the game's logo now as well, since I redesigned that. You notice how the actual font choice has the same like design ethic as the rest of the shapes I've put in. Like it's got the slanted edges, the round, some corners are round, some corners are sharp. It kind of looks like if Gabby was a font. Like you see the little curves they have on the B here? How it has the sharp corner and then a round corner, just like Gabby's head, which has a round corner and a sharp corner. So that's not an accident. That font, when I looked at it, I instantly knew it's like, oh, this is the one. For like the main title. So it's really cool to see it now that I've got a render next to it, how cool it looks. So I don't know, we'll put that maybe like that, I don't know. And then I'll make it like transparent because it's really strong. Something like this, and we'll put it behind all this a little bit. And then for that pattern in the background, because there's a reason why it's a triangle. That's another thing. That's not an accidental shape. I've got a few different variants of it going in different directions, and a fill and outline version just to mess around. But I think what I would just want to take a version of this and just move it around a bit to have it go like full screen. And then make it small. So I'm just using a pattern fill for this. Like that. I don't know, maybe that's too busy. I'll change it to be dark instead of light. I don't know, actually maybe it is. It's a little, maybe it's a bit too busy. I don't know, what do you guys think? I think the scan, maybe I'll turn the scan lines off. Okay, actually, no, it looks a little dirty. I don't like it. I think it was better just in its little corner there, maybe. I'll turn the scan lines off just quickly, just to, because I've also got a layer with just scan lines on it. Actually, what I might try, I have an idea now. I'll add scan lines, but just to the text only. I don't know if that's a thing I can do. I'll just duplicate this real quick. So yeah, I don't know. I'm just just playing around. Just playing around. So if I'm just doing it on its own canvas so I can mask it more easily. So I'll take the scan lines and we'll add a, why is that not working? Yep. So then you guys will see. So the actual text then is like using a scan line on it. And I'll just because I can't recolor it like this. Because the scan lines as well are a feature that I like because it feels analog. I've got it in my little document that I wrote there. But I'll just, hold on, I'll find it in just a minute. I just want to invert the colors on this. Actually, maybe I don't know, maybe it's better if it's darker. Actually, I like it darker, there's more contrast. makes Gabby stand out more. So if I turn off the grayscale, oh, that's not bad. It's when you zoom out, that's what matters. That looks kind of cool. But it's cool how like the actual shapes can just be the words Gabby and not just random shapes. I like when you can pull off stuff like that. Although the scanline pattern is because I'm using this is the cool thing, because I'm trying to not use rasters as much as possible, which is maybe not the right thing for Photoshop, but I don't care. Okay, like this is what I know. So because it's a pattern fill, I can actually just scale up the scan lines and how thick they are, like really easily. They aren't going to be perfect when you scale them. There's going to be filtering on it, but this is this is just like a low res test, so it's not really meant to be that. It's just the general impression is all I care about, rather than if it's pixel perfect for the moment. That comes later. I think 400 I like. I could see this as key art for the Steam page. Thank you, Cosmic. Wow, that actually, it would make pretty cool key art. Well, the thing that excites me is the... Oh, how to put it? So it's like, well, yeah, because with the current Steam graphics, I've just tried the best I had at the time, but I find that the best ones, they achieve an emotional purpose too, which I wasn't really thinking about when I made the last ones. And I think that is like every successful game you've ever seen will do that, where it's like the actual picture itself has an emotional ethic behind it, beyond just, oh, it looks cool. So this is sort of my version. I don't know how these other people do it, but you know, there's like a thing there where it's evoking a feeling. Like it's sort of like when you look at the Halo 3 cover. That's a great example, because you feel something when you look at that. Whereas the Halo 5 one, not so much. But you look at something like this, yes, it looks cool, but also there is a feeling in this where it's like, you know, it feels like the Return of the King, which is sort of that's the mythology of Halo 3. It's the believe, that was like the marketing. Funny enough, their marketing campaign for Halo 3 is basically all of it is driven by that same idea of, you'll notice that a lot of it, they had ads that didn't even have gameplay in it. It was literally just some live action. They had the live action one with the old music in the background. I don't know what the name of it was, but you guys have probably seen it. It was like a TV commercial. And the thing that was most prominent was not the game. It was the ethic. And they had like you guys remember this? I don't know. This was a long time ago. Maybe some of you weren't born yet. But this was like a legendary... the starring... It's a Super Bowl commercial, okay? So this is how you know this is like legendary. They had this sort of live action one, and there was a second one that I'm thinking of. It wasn't this one, but this was also just sick. Where it just shows him like looking at like the war scene and just being sick. But there was this other one that I remember. I think it was Believe. Yeah. You guys remember this? And it's literally the entire thing is just like these figures. It's just it's the music in the background. I can't remember the name. It's some famous song. And it just has like little figures of the battlefield with the music. And that's literally it. It doesn't show any gameplay. It doesn't show any like 16 times the detail or this whatever that people do now. It's not doing a vast open world with hundreds of it's not doing that. It's not even saying anything verbally. It's saying things non-verbally. And and then it just has the word believe. See, a marketing department, they would say, no, you can't do this. You gotta have the brand name and the logo is the prominent thing. But Bungie were like, no, we're gonna. They do that afterwards. But the thing they put first is just this word. And you know, apparently there was this whole thing with the marketing department of this game that almost ruined the sound. I don't know if you guys have watched Marty O'Donnell's channel, but it's so fascinating. He talks about the story. You know the famous Halo 3 chords? Apparently that almost didn't make it into the game because the marketing department said they didn't like it. Like, oh, well, a piano chord, are you not? No, you can't, that's not allowed. And then Marty's like, screw you. I'm doing the piano chord. I like it. And that's how you got the famous, because it's famous now, the Halo 3. Dun, 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 dun. That almost didn't make it in because of the marketing people. So that's just kind of interesting. But yeah, it's so interesting. You wouldn't see a game marketed like this anymore. But that's because, you know, these guys, they had an ethic. They had an emotional thing going on. That's why this works. 2.4 million views, you know, and they knew what they were doing. Anyway, something to think about. Something to think about. You know, you don't see, you know, who's running Halo now. You don't see them doing this. And it shows. They don't get the results. They don't get... Nobody... Like, what? I don't even remember what the last Halo was. I don't even care anymore. Nobody should care, because it's not that good. And, you know, what interesting, what are they not doing that the old guys were back when it was, you know, Halo 3's launch? That was like the biggest in history. Not an accident. Anyway. Poison Day Ice says, sorry, I'm just catching up on chat. I just have a lot to say this week, sorry. Maybe the text should be maroon. Okay. I see where that's coming from. We'll try it. We'll try it. I think for that though, I would turn off the scan lines though, because it would look. Maybe not. I don't know. Sort of like this sort of color in Gabby's. Oh wait, because I've got this on a background. Like I'll have to. Because the way I've done this. Actually, I'm not sure because that's gonna have a lot of. What would you call? I'll just move this down. No, I think it's gonna, yeah, it's gonna clash. It's gonna draw too much attention, I think. Yeah, it's a bit strong. But thanks for the suggestion. I think I'll just leave it the way it was. But okay, I'll just go back and undo to the point where this was a bit tidier. And I'll just close some of these folders down. Then yeah, I had a bunch of these other accents that I wasn't really sure what to do with. I don't know, maybe those might come in handy later for something. The text is a bit strong though, that's the only thing. What color is that? Make it 50, 40, 30, 33, 33 actually, because it's like it matches the background of that because there's a gradient in the background, by the way, wherever it is. Yeah, I've got a little gradient there. We'll get the grayscale back so I can judge it. I'll just group this. I'm just trying to organize the document because it's a bit of a mess and there's so many layers. All right, sorry, a little bit quiet. All right. Perfect hologram ad. Thank you. Imagine this, but sorry, I'm just reading from Rice Awakes. Imagine this, but the Gabby text is scrolling. Yeah, now that might be cool for something like a menu or something like that. That's something I've thought about. So in my little thing here, I guess we'll call this the ethic document, you could say. I do have some things written about animation, which I can't implement yet because I'm still, just figuring out the elements, but when this is implemented, that's when you can start messing around with keyframing and all that. I've got some notes here about the movement language and how it should feel and what to do and what not to do. So I've got things like speed fast. So that means, every element can't move slowly. Everything has to be like fast or scrolling or in motion Because which, you know, that kind of matches Gabby. Like, she's always on the move. So there should be something in the element that is also on the move. You know. And then in terms of, like, animation, I've got some things about if I do, like, no fading of anything. So you know how, like, some games they'll have, like, a crossfade? So one of my rules is, like, no, none of that stuff. If you're going to have, like, an animated element. So if I have, like, you know how they have, like, press start? Because that's a choice. When you've got, like, a title screen and there's got press start. Some games, it doesn't move and it's just boring. Some games, they'll have, like, a fading in and out. Some games, it's, like, blinking in and out. And it's like, well, how do you decide what's correct? And I think you just think about, well, what feeling does each of those give? And I've sort of preemptively made the choice that when I get to that for mine, no crossfading, it's going to be blinking. Because fading, you know, it's interpolating. And what's the one thing Gabby doesn't have? It's interpolation. So it should match. Which means if I do have, like, something like just press start, I know it seems small, but that's the first thing people see. If it's blinking, you know, it says, if it's instead of fading, you know, it's a choice and it says something. And I think, you know, blink, no interpolation, just like Gabby. It's instant. And then I've got some notes here about transition. So if you're going to have, like, menus transitioning in and out of each other, what should it do? And it should be fast and, like, whip in and out and slide in and out really quickly. That's sort of the way I imagine it. So again, you kind of have to use your imagination for the moment to, like, picture all that. But if you should be able to picture it. When I use those words, an image should come to mind of sort of how that would be composed. And I think there is something to be said about being able to picture it before you make it. You know, you can already imagine it clearly in your head, the intention. And that's something I have not had in any other previous... The only time I've ever had that was for Gabby's model, but I haven't had that for a lot of other things. And now I'm starting to have it for other stuff, thinking that way. And I've got some other stuff here as well for sound, because that's also a very important. That's, like, actually maybe more important than the graphics is the sound. And I've got some notes here about how I want it to sound, and there's an ethic there too where, you know, I want synthesized atmosphere with some little instruments, like real instruments, but, like, that being 20% of it and then 80% being synths. There's a reason for that as well. And a good I've just written down, like, a reference of a band that does do that. I don't know if you guys have heard of Genki Rockets, but they have sort of a similar ethic to their stuff. I got them open here right now on my music player. I was listening to them before the stream. But even from their album covers, you can tell there's like they have a similar, they got something else going on as well. And if you look at the album inserts and everything, it's the same. And it has their sound is really cool because it has, like, synths. It has all this, like, pads and stuff, but they've also got, like, acoustic guitars and strings, which sound gorgeous. And, like, that's sort of the instruments I always pictured with Gabby as well. So having, like, the visuals and audio match, that was something that Designers Republic also kind of did, where a lot of their aesthetics matched the sort of D&B jungle music that was popular at the time. And that's because it follows a similar ethic, and they knew that. And that's why it works so well. Anyway, speaking of which, I did want to try some words. Just using some of these words inside, like, as type. Setting it in the page, just to see how it looks. So I'll write some words like what I had written. I don't know. There's some, like, phrases and stuff I've been trying to come up with that kind of match Gabby. Some of these you wouldn't really put that means something to me. Like, this is temperament of, like, how I want it to feel. But some words I would actually, that aesthetically look good, that I would think to put in. What other ones are there? Oh, I literally 10 minutes ago I knew what I was going to write, but now I've forgotten them. But I was going to write some, like, because Designer Republic do this. They got a bunch of stuff, like, a bunch of, like, making fun of corporate branding stuff they've put in there. But I have a bit of a different ethic. So I'm trying to think. Always moving, something like that. And okay, so it's hard to do on stream actually, because there's a bit of an anxiety being watched when you type in these sort of emotionally driven words. There was this thing I wrote this for some other mock-up for ages ago. And I did this, it was like an old album cover. It was like, for one of Project Feline's soundtrack demos, this was like on my SoundCloud ages ago. And I, just to play around, I tried this sort of idea of like repeating this phrase as like an accent. So I'll set this in Serpentine instead, because I don't want it to be like too strong. I should set, actually I'll get rid of these two. And just sort of setting this as like a repeating. It has to be small though, like real small. So we'll do like 3. It's gonna be so tiny. But you know, stuff like the Zionist Republic would probably do something like this, right? Where they like will like add those little phrases, really small, but inside the composition somewhere, to add a bit of visual. I don't know, it does something to your eye when you just look at it zoomed out. It adds like visual interest, flair. Or no, they use a different word. They use the word decorative. That's it. Because for those who don't know, and I'm just in terms of the ethic I'm thinking about, because one of Gabby's, because I don't, this sounds weird because I know this, but you guys don't know this yet. The key theme of like Gabby, of like her as a character, is that she's trying to find her dad. That's sort of like the story that I'm being very guarded about, because I don't really want to talk about it too much. But the ethic is, it came from this idea that I remember reading about ages ago, and it was like, because you know, trying to write a girl character is difficult when you're not a girl. And I just remember this phrase that I thought was so beautiful, and it was something like, a girl's first love is her dad, or something like that. And I thought, man, that's, because I've seen that just with, you know, in my own life. And I thought, oh, that's cool. So I thought, you know, that'll be a really key part of what Gabby's trying to do in the game. So I had this little phrase, and I'm trying to think, well, what ethic, what feelings, what emotions is someone going to be thinking that is trying to find her dad? And when you really dive into that more, it's like, well, what does that really mean? Why is the dad important? And then you go down the rabbit hole a bit, and you find out culturally there's quite a lot to it, to that idea. But I'm just trying to think. There's like a certain set of words I remember coming to mind that it's escaping me right now. But some of these ethics come from that goal. So things like I've written here, like choleric, melancholic. This is part of this really old. It's people today would call it pseudoscience and throw it in the trash, but I think there's something to it. This is sort of how people used to judge people and like personality. They had like the 4 humors. So I don't know, you guys might know that. And this is sort of how people used to do medicine. There's more sophisticated things now, but I think there are some observations about it that still kind of hold up. And that's like with the 4 humors or the 4 temperaments. It's like a very, very oversimplified version of sort of what is it called? I forgot the name. It's whatever Carl Jung does. I forgot the name of it. Psychoanalytic, whatever it's called. It's like it's the version that came before Carl Jung, was like the 4 humors. And they have like a thing with this of temperaments. There's like the 4 temperaments. There's choleric, melancholic, phlegmatic, I think that's how you pronounce it, and sanguine. And they each sort of map to different temperaments. And you have like a mix of each of those 4 humors inside each person. And one of the things I came up with is, what kind of temperament would you need for that goal of like, you need to find your dad? Well, you'd probably want something like this maybe. And when I think about the words that come to mind of choleric, melancholic, for those who don't know, so choleric is sort of like the type A, goal-oriented personality, and melancholic is more introspective. So you've got the funny little combination here of like being very results-driven, goal-oriented, which is kind of the ethic of the game when you think about it. When you're playing a level of the game, you're completing goals, you're judging yourself on your performance, you're getting ranked, you're trying to do it as perfectly as possible. It's very results-driven. And the reward the emotional reward is you did the result the best. And there's like a competitive edge to the choleric temperament as well. But the melancholic I find interesting too, because it's sort of the tendency to be inward focused, which is I think probably why this works so well as a single player game, because you're competing against yourself. And my personal temperament is sort of the opposite of, it's like the reverse of these. But for Gabby, I think it works really well that it's choleric melancholic rather than melancholic choleric. And I thought, what words come to mind when you think of a melancholic or a choleric melancholic person? You know, it's someone that's probably like persistence. We'll write some of these words down. Sorry, I had to explain all that so I could get in the mood. You gotta get in the mood. So if you write in like, that's where you can come up with words like this of what you would put for decorative words. Or another word that comes to mind is endurance. I'm just trying to think of emotions. I'm trying to get in tune with my feelings here. So, what other words come to mind? I don't know. You guys, feel free to pitch in any in chat, by the way. Sorry if I haven't been checking. I've just been kind of in the zone. She's got cholera. I don't know what that is. But, Dat Sammy says, makes sense when you don't have dad issues. Well, interestingly, I don't know, like, not to get too psychoanalytic here, but I think, you know, you look around at the world today and you will notice a pattern where a lot of people's problems tend to come from daddy problems, funny enough. And I don't use that as in like a mocking way. I mean, I'm kind of sympathetic to it, but you know, there's that is a meme. That is like an actual meme that people like, you know, that's like an archetype. It's like the Ramona Flowers archetype. And a lot of it comes from, you know, relationship with father type stuff. It's usually where a lot of the problems stem from. And I know a lot of people personally that have this. And it's interesting. And it's just like, well, you know, maybe fathers are really important, more than we could possibly imagine. And I don't think you realize it until, yeah, when you have issues with your dad, then you'll notice that life is a lot harder. So when I think about that in terms of Gabby, it's like, well, yeah, that would be a, you know, when you kind of understand the emotional, what's going on, why that's the case, and just that phrase I mentioned earlier, it kind of makes it like, wow, that's, you know, if you're in a position, I think, where, you know, especially if you're a woman, just from what I've observed, if you have like a bad relationship with your father, life is just really hard. You just have lots of interpersonal problems. And I'm not trying to cast judgment. It's just an observation. So, you know, I'm sympathetic to it, but also it's like, how do can you make an interesting story out of that? Is there something there that, you know, is there gold in that somewhere? So, you know, when I think about what Gabby's motivation has to be, what her goals are, I don't know, it just feels like it fits really well into a lot of what's going on in the world right now. But anyway, I don't want to get too deep into it. There's a lot more to it than that, but that's sort of when you think about where the ethic has to come from. There's part of it, because you got to think every character has a problem they're trying to solve. You can't just make a character that looks cool, that has no flaws, that's perfect, that's Rey Skywalker, that just is perfect and does everything right. I think it's kind of boring. You need a character that's got some problem, some goal, some issue that can't just be a rational problem. It has to be a deeply emotional problem that they're trying to solve. I don't know. Maybe I've given it a bit of thought. Now I'm just trying to think of other words. That kind of fit this whole emotional tone, this ethic. Because what else does Gabby have to do? Because in order to ultimately in the game, you know, she's trying to find her way back to him, and that's why she has to kind of become this fugitive, like Supergirl almost, with like insane agility to traverse the world to find him. And what would you have to do? Because I know these are a lot of rhetorical questions here. It's very weird emotional territory, but I think it's something, I don't know, something about digging from a place of that feels kind of interesting, intriguing. So what kind of attitudes and words would you have to adopt with that attitude? Because I thought of endurance, persistence. There's got to be more though. I'm just trying to think of other words. Rice Awakes says, isn't this the kind of plot of Mirror's Edge? Not really, because one of the things I didn't like about Mirror's Edge is, well, because Faith is trying to find her sister, but they don't... There's a different dynamic with a sister and a father. Very different. And the issue I had with Mirror's Edge is I didn't care about the sister at all. And there was a bunch of other stuff in the background that they tried to add that I just didn't care for, like the mass surveillance city. I mean, it's interesting, but I just didn't care about it. So I don't know. Because that's the thing as well that I have to keep in mind is, why did that not work? And I think there's part of it is the fact that you barely know the sister, which is also a problem I got to keep an eye out for my thing. But also, you don't, like, I didn't feel like I knew any of the characters. I didn't have an in emotionally. That was like my big issue, is that you had other characters that could have given you an in of like making you care, but I didn't really get to know any of them. Like, I don't even remember their names. I don't remember what they did. I don't remember a lot about the game, which sort of says that's probably the big problem, is that it was really forgettable for me. I hardly remember anything about it. But it's probably because maybe I wasn't given good enough reasons to care about it, you know? So an early version of Feline's plot had the same problem, where it was Gabby's going to save her sister, but firstly, why do I care about the sister? Who cares? Why is the sister important? What does he mean to Gabby? And I don't know, as someone who doesn't have a sister myself, it's like, I don't know. So it feels a bit dishonest. It feels like not an authentic enough place to write from. So, you know, maybe you can make that work if you're, you know, if you're not me or you're someone else that knows this stuff better. But for me, it's like, okay, it's not going to work. So I had to rethink it a lot of times. Curtis also says, I was only in Mirror's Edge for the gameplay. Yeah, I mean, that was me too. Like, the gameplay was good. I liked it. But yeah, the story, I forgot. So I don't even remember how it... I don't remember a single... Except, like, the opening cutscene. That's, like, the only thing I remember. Everything else, I do not remember what you do, where you go. I don't remember any of it. But, you know, there are games I played 20 years ago where I still remember every detail vividly. So it's not that I play, oh, you got to play it again. It's like, no, I should only need to play it once and remember it. And if I can't do it the first time, it's probably because it's not good. Something about it's not good. Sorry. So I'm just a bit stuck here. I'm just trying to think of other words. I wanted to repeat this as well, just to have it go a bit longer. Let me just get the magazine out and just read what's... Because there's more than just words, there's phrases.